Hey everyone, welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
All right, so I've been kind of struggling with some resentment. So I'm here for you to help me out with that.
Oh, good. Because I've been resenting some things too. Maybe it's time to get some stuff off our chests.
And help each other out here. Being a parent and I've got teenage kids.
Yeah.
It's like and I don't want to sound terrible, but I bet other people probably feel the same way. It's like sometimes I really kind of resent them.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want to be mean.
Yes.
I love them, but I also sometimes resent them because it's like, it's, ask them to do things. They don't do it. Then I got to do it. You know, it's just like little things like, can you mow the lawn today? Doesn't get done. Then it doesn't get done the next day. And the next day I'm like, heck, it just, y'all do nothing the whole summer. And all I asked you to do is mow the freaking lawn.
Oh, we're getting close to August summer.
Right?
Remember, I told you that.
August summer.
Yep. Here
and then,
we go.
And the dishes, you know, we've always talked about my kid's ability to create a Dr. Seuss construction of piling the dishes up. Like, put the freaking dishes in the dishwasher.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be I don't want to.
You don't want to be that guy.
A resentful person.
No.
But I've kind of resolved to just doing it myself. Because I'm screw it. I'm not even going to ask. I'm just going to do it myself.
Oh, this is where we pivot. And this is where we pivot.
And that is actually making it way worse. I thought that was going to help. A couple of weeks ago, I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to ask. I'm just going to suck it up and do it. Actually, this is probably from what we talked about last week, my independence thing kicking into overdrive.
Yeah.
So my independence thing is now causing an overwhelming amount of resentment. I'm just doing it.
And you're getting real mad. Well,
so I got to figure out how to sort of move through that or resolve that because it's not great.
Yeah. Well, first of all, on the parent thing, that is so normal. Are you kidding me? Every single parent in this world gets so annoyed with their kids. Every single parent in the entire universe.
All the parents I hang out with are like, my kids are wonderful and I love them so much.
Well, they're lying. They're lying. They're absolutely lying.
Just hang out with a bunch of liars.
Either to you or to themselves or both. I had a friend tell me recently, and I hate to admit this myself, but she was like, I love my kids. I absolutely love being together with my kids. I love doing things with them, but I don't like them when they're together. And I was like, what? How weird. I love having our family together. But then I all of a sudden thought to myself, wait a minute, she's onto something. She's definitely onto something. Because the kids act different when they're together than they do when they're just with their parents. 100%. And I feel like they're a little more careless about things when they're together. I feel like they're a little more edgy.
Interesting. Yeah. They might be almost reverting to
definitely.
Like a middle school state.
And you know what? It makes me annoyed. I resent that because I feel like, oh my gosh, you guys are grown-ups now. Why do you have to act like this? But I think it's very normal to resent a lot of things with our kids. And I was also recently told about this one school of thought where it's when your kids are when you're parenting adults, I'm telling you what, it's way harder. It's way harder to adult parent, I think. But you know what sits in all of this? Expectation.
The E word.
Yes.
It's your favorite word.
It's expectations, man. The more you expect, the more you resent.
So that is That is true. That's the
I
core.
know. That's the core.
But how do I go around, like, can I just have no expectations? Like, I expect nothing from you. And, you know, to me, like, the part of the thing with even just doing chores around the house, as simple as that is, when it doesn't get done, it's like,
oh, I know.
It's like a core values thing to me. I'm like,
Yes.
quit
Yes.
being lazy. You're
Oh,
like,
yep.
You're lazy.
Yep.
I don't want lazy kids. Get out, get the mower going.
Yeah.
But I mean, is that a proper expectation? Maybe it is. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's
like,
your
how do you
house.
deal with that? Yeah,
It's
how
your
do you
house.
deal with that expectation?
Okay, let me ask you another question in answer to your question. Do we even know what all of our expectations are?
No,
I don't
sure
think
not.
we do.
There's
I don't
tons
think
of
we
them
do.
that you don't know.
And I think that's where the resentment sits. Because you have all these underlying expectations and beliefs, and when they're not being honored, it's real annoying. I mean, I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
It's really annoying.
Well, this is, again, like, with parenting too, it's like there's so much like the way I was raised, I expect my kids to behave the same way, but I don't even know what those, like you said, I don't even know really what those expectations are. All I feel is something's not being met, and I don't really know what it is.
Oh, yeah, I know. That happens in your whole life, don't you think?
Probably based on my childhood, and those wires are probably crossed all the time.
Yeah. I think that's really, really true. And, and then you want to just talk about the complication of parenting and talking about resentment. If you, like in my case, I'm an only child, right? I have no idea what it was like to be raised in a multi-child family. Zero. So how do I know if that's right or wrong, how they were acting? I remember I used to say to Mitch, is this normal when the kids would argue?
Yeah.
Is this normal? I used to ask, and he said, no, it's way better than normal. Like, they get along pretty well. But I thought, oh my God.
Oh yeah, like you would have never
other crazy.
Yeah, you would have never really experienced like sibling rivalry or
competition,
picking on each other and all of that. Yeah.
No. All the emotions that go with the siblings and what birth order they are.
Yeah.
And
I love that question as a parent. Like, is this normal?
I did ask that in total exasperation.
We asked that too. Like, are these kids, is this normal? Like, why do we care if it's normal or not?
Why do we ask? Because you know what? We have an expectation.
Yeah.
That's not being met.
Yeah.
So we're getting resentful.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure it out. We're trying to place blame somewhere so that we don't feel resentful anymore and we can feel justified.
Yeah.
That's why. So stupid.
Right. At least if it's not normal, I have a reason.
An excuse.
Yeah. Yeah. An excuse.
An excuse. Oh, but my coach always says expectations are resentments waiting to happen. And the more you expect, the more you resent. And you could take this not even into just child behavior and parenting and child relationships. You can see this everywhere.
Oh my gosh. It's like one of the most pervasive things that I could observe. Like same thing with your partner relationship, your spousal relationship. It's like you've got two different people. They behave and act and have expectations in different ways, and if those aren't, and it's so hard to communicate all of those micro expectations that you have,
I
agree. They so easily get misaligned.
Yeah, and start piling up, and then the resentments get more and more and more. And more.
That's probably the big one is the pile, the resentment pile.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Get your shovel out.
As a matter of fact, I've created a small list for this conversation. Are you ready?
She puts her glasses on.
Okay, are you ready for some of my big resentments?
Yeah, wow. Let's go.
I know.
Dive in.
For everybody that's listening, we've talked a lot about how we create these pods. Like, so we basically say, hey, you want to talk about resentment? Yeah, okay, let's do that. Click, record. Like, this is how we do it. We're very, very, we're very organized, aren't we? Lots of production in this. Okay. So this time when you said, how about resentment? I was quiet for 30 seconds?
Yeah, you said, give me a minute and I'm going to.
I created 6 things that I just came up the top of my head that caused me to resent things. Okay, ready?
Hold on, let me get Mitch on the phone.
No, he doesn't want to know. He doesn't care. Which is another thing I'm going to resent. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, sarcasm. I resent
You resent
sarcasm.
sarcasm?
Yes.
Why?
Well, I resent sarcasm, especially if it's directed towards me, because I'm such a sensitive person.
Because sarcasm is usually a fairly like cutting and direct.
It's caustic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sarcasm, when people are, and that's like the number one thing I coach on as leaders is do not use sarcasm in your humor as a leader, ever, ever. But in my own personal life, I used to be so good at sarcasm. Like that, I was really good at it. But, you know, being sarcastic is nothing more than making yourself look good at the expense of someone else. And whenever sarcasm is directed at me, I just think, why do you want to hurt my feelings? So I feel I feel resentful about that. Other things that I resent. When the house isn't vacuumed.
Because of the dog sanctuary you run. It's just so much fur.
Oh my God. Like we could build furniture with fur. Okay.
That's funny. You can manufacture it into a structural
I can make a full-length double-layer fur coat right now, okay? No gaps, braided, gorgeous, all fur. Maybe 2 of them, maybe 5. But stuff like that, right? It's like just the day-to-day stuff, you know, and I'm a bit of a stickler for a clean house. I really don't like messes. Neither does Mitch. Everything always looks pretty picked up. That's another one though. So if it's not, I start to feel resentful because it drags me down. It makes me I'm preoccupied. You know, if I have to walk from one end of the room to the other and I have a pair of fur slippers on that I did not have at the front end, I'm going to feel resentful. It's not that bad I'm being silly a little. Okay. You want to hear a couple more?
Yeah.
Okay. Too much work to do at once. I have a tendency to outsell my own capacity all the time at work.
And who does that make you resentful towards?
Everyone else.
Yourself?
Everyone else.
Well, who got themselves in that situation?
Everyone.
More like you oversold your capacity, so you're way too overworked and like no one and also no one is vacuuming. So
exactly.
Like you're like resentful that like no one else is like helping do all of the other things when you overbooked yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've got a babushka hair helmet on. Thanks for the clarity. Appreciate it. But yeah, I do start to feel resentful of that, and then I get mad at myself, and because I think it's a sign of weakness. It's a sign of weakness. Like I'm shaking my head yes, when inside I'm saying, you can't do that for 60 days. Don't say yes until 60 days.
Yeah, that's like you and I have that similar trait that is like this, like independence, and then overwork turns into this burnout resentment thing.
Yes.
It's a perfect
it is a
cycle.
Loop. It is. Could you make a t-shirt? That'd be great. Like a flow chart. I'd like a flow chart t-shirt.
Like a slight mental breakdown or temper tantrum. Everything resets, and then we just go on the cycle again.
Yes. Gets really quiet on one end for a little while, and then, okay, we're back. Everything's great.
We forget.
And
also the amnesia.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Work amnesia. Oh, yeah, we haven't talked about that in a long time. That's hilarious. All right. This is a big one. And this is it's so dumb, okay? It's so dumb. It's big, but it's dumb. Okay. I resent when my family specifically doesn't take care of me emotionally in the moments where I feel very weak or needy.
Yeah.
Which
like
happens...
you need something, you need some emotional support, and there's no one there to give it to you.
Right. And why do you suppose that is?
Because you don't ask.
Exactly.
I didn't want to jump on that too quick, but...
Exactly right. Because I don't ask. And why don't I ask? Because I just feel like they should know.
Because they should know. That's my favorite. That's my favorite part of a relationship with someone.
Yeah,
you should
know that. You should know that. Those are just a couple of my little quick things that I can...
quick list.
Yeah, and I guess actually most of that list was self-focused, wasn't it? Like most of that list was resenting myself, not resenting others.
It was a lot of self-resentment.
I never noticed that. Oh, I'm going to have to go lay down after this and think about it.
Do you remember that Seinfeld episode where Jerry found a girl that was exactly like him? And they like and so like they super quickly fell in love. Like they both ate cereal. They both like said the same style jokes. Like they were like the same person.
That's hilarious.
And then like towards the end of the episode, he broke up with her because like he realized like he can't be with someone just like her because he hates himself. You can't be with someone like that.
Oh, wow. Oh, so I'm walking away from this thinking, you know what, Melissa, you need to fall in love with yourself more often.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what I need to do.
Well, it is interesting that it does come back. It does come back to you, even though it was like initially like someone else doing or not doing something.
Yes, right.
It ultimately comes back to
Isn't
like,
that funny?
Your own expectations, a lot of and a lot of your own doing almost.
Totally. Oh yeah, absolutely. I put myself in these spots by myself.
Yeah.
I can do all this by myself.
If you didn't listen to last week's episode, go listen to that.
Episode 122. Are you too independent?
Well, so when I think about resentment, for me, it's a lot of times like core value based stuff.
Yes. Oh, like, that's a huge one.
Yeah, it's just like that person didn't, again, that's still like the root is expectation, right? But like the way it comes out for me, sometimes it's like kind of like a workload thing. It's not fair. Like the workload's not distributed evenly, so it's not fair, and I'm resentful of that.
Yeah.
But also when people make decisions that aren't in line with my core values.
Yes, exactly. Especially if you're involved in it.
Yeah, I'm like, why are you not making the proper decision?
Right. Or you certainly feel triggered.
Yeah, or for me, I'd be like let's like list out all of the core value violations that you're currently making in that line of decisions. Yeah.
Violations.
Right, you a core values ticket.
I just have to have it. I just happen to have a tablet right here. That's really insightful though, because we've talked about this in the past, but again, during coaching, a lot of the times we talk about what are your core values, because it's interesting how many people don't really know, but they have them. They really have them, and they operate in a way that they expect those values to be met and lived through.
Yeah.
But if they don't actually they're not cognizant of it.
Yeah.
What oftentimes happens is people will go against those core values, and you start to make huge judgments about them and feel very triggered and resentful about them.
Yeah.
Because,
especially like in another context, like if you're like comparing yourself to somebody else, and on top of that, they've got like some core value stuff, like, oh, look at that person has more than me. And the reason they have more than me is because, like they're a total jerk, or they're doing shady things, or like, you know what I mean? Like
it can't be on the up.
Yeah. It can't be on the up and up. And that's just like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's like comparison. So that's interesting. Like, so is resentment only tied towards expectation, or is resentment tied toward some of these other things?
I think it can be tied towards comparison. And again, it's like it quickly gets into like, again, like almost like a fairness thing. Yeah. It's like I work, again, like we'll just like use it like, I don't know, your neighbor that is like, like, I work just as hard as my neighbor. Why do they make so much more money than us? Or like, why
Oh,
do they
yeah,
get to go on
exactly.
these trips and they just screwing around the whole time? They don't even, they
How
don't
do
have
they
to.
have a cabin and 4 cars, and
Yeah,
how come
right.
we don't?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I
So
think you're
I
right.
think I think there's lots of scenarios where that comparison can lead to resentment.
I think resentment is a very dark, insidious emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I think resentment can eat away at people and actually wreck people over time. You know, you can see people. I feel like most of the time, well, I think we all have some level of resentment. I think probably some of that is not unhealthy. I think probably we all maybe have a little resentment here and there, which is just our striving to do as well as we can. I think some of it is maybe, but I think, and maybe
as you
not.
said that, I'm like, as I've been just exploring, as we've been exploring this, I'm thinking, like you just said, everyone's got a little resentment, and I was just thinking, actually, if you stopped and thought about it, I bet everyone's got a lot of resentment.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah,
a lot. Well,
like more than
you'd think.
Yeah,
I bet you're right.
Yeah, because
you're right.
Other things I was thinking while you're doing that is like,
yeah,
like unresolved conflict.
Oh yeah,
can totally
for sure.
create
Sits there.
resentment.
Absolutely.
Like we never, like there was a problem with somebody years ago, and I just can't let it go, and just start. It builds and builds.
It
and
sits
builds.
in your system and builds.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you wait to pounce.
And then
a lot of times you cash in your
resentment.
check. Yep.
Yep. I was actually kind of saying it before, I think, but I didn't realize it is almost like a lack of recognition. Did you hear when I started about how I do everything around here?
Yeah.
If everyone maybe woke up every day and said, like, hey, Dad, I really appreciate how hard you work every single day, I'd be like, cool, I'll happily mow the lawn.
Oh my gosh.
Things your kids will never say to you.
Oh my gosh, we should write a book. Actually, that should be a good book title right there. Things your children will never say to you. Thank you so much for all of the discipline you provided.
Yeah.
Thank you for not giving me allowance when I asked for it, for not doing anything. You're the best.
Like, right. But I just want to be like, you guys do no clue how hard it is to keep all this crap going.
Just wait till you're an adult. I hope I'm not dead by then so I can see.
So here's what's going to happen. My unresolved resentment is going to cause me to just like break and then like just disappear into the woods.
With your War of Art book.
Yeah. My book and my tent.
And
all
a
I need.
Stick
all I need
with
is
a little
book.
bandana tied on the end.
This tent.
And this remote control. Yeah, but it is very interesting to me to think about this because you can see people who have lived with resentment and how it's just eaten a hole inside of them.
Yeah, I like what you're starting to bring up is like it's a dark energy. It's a dark.
Yeah, it's very dark.
It's not, dark. And watch those things because that dark energy can be corrosive.
I was in a big leadership event and somebody pulled me aside and asked me something about they had this kind of belief about another leader in the room and very judgmental. Like she was being very judgmental about this other person. And she was saying, why can't she? That's how it was starting. Why can't she just be X? And I said, rather than ask that question, I guess what I would want to ask you is, why are you judging her and having such resentment towards her? And she said, she stopped in her tracks and she said, I'm not judging her. And I was like, you are judging her. You are judging her. And she was gobsmacked. And she said, I wasn't aware that I was doing that. So we do operate with these premises that we're not even cognizant of or are consciously aware of. Maybe it's just habit. Yeah. Maybe it's because we've had these core beliefs so strongly for so long that we don't even recognize that other people don't share them. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to think about.
Well, and we talk about like kind of habitual thinking and how like you have a thought and then it comes back again and it just gets like reinforced and gets kind of grows in strength.
Yeah.
And I think resentment is, it's one of those feelings that can really be repetitive and grow stronger.
Set in our ways.
And you kind of like get attached. Yeah. You almost get attached to that.
Right.
That feeling of resentment.
Mm-hmm. It's a rhythm.
Yeah.
You almost get in a rhythm of resentment.
Yeah.
You really do. Like I think that really applies to your closest relationships. Mm-hmm. When you start having expectations that they're going to behave or do a certain thing for you or with you or whatever, and then you are unwilling to stop, even when it is not producing or yielding the result you want, rather than maybe assigning a different way of thinking about it, you auger in and just keep thinking, if I just get, more intense than my partner or whoever, will see that this is a big deal and they'll change. Well, people don't change. People are not going to change. So if we keep expecting them to behave in a certain way because it's better for us, that is like a core resentment piece. Yeah. This is such a deep topic. Like we could talk about this for hours. It is really interesting to think about.
I'm just over here trying to get my lawn mowed. Like, come on. Quit it with the dishes too.
Quit it with the dishes.
We're going all paper plates in this house.
I just also got a flash for Chevy Chase's Christmas Vacation. He just was trying so hard to have things be a certain way, and his dad's like, "Hey, son, it's not working. Yeah. It's okay. We're just going to go home. It just didn't work out."
Well, all right. We might have to revisit this topic in a few months because I think it's really interesting.
It is
like there's a lot of little tributaries here, but
yeah. I would just say, honestly, what are the things that you have expectations about that are continually not yielding the result you want? And ask yourself, am I being too forceful in my expectation or in my core belief about something? And is it time for me to shift some of that to let some resentment go? Because resentment just eats holes in people. It just is a horrible, horrible thing.
Yep. I'm feeling that. I gotta go do something. I'll go talk to the kids tonight.
Good plan. Let me know how it goes.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.